During World War II, resources were scarce, and soldiers in the field had to solve problems with whatever materials were at hand. One of the most ingenious, yet almost forgotten battlefield hacks was something called the grease curtain. It wasn't an actual curtain made of fabric, but a slick-layered coating made from animal fat, ash and wax that soldiers used to waterproof tents, trenches and even camouflage nets. What made it remarkable was how it worked. It not only repelled rain, but also trapped smoke and odours, keeping camps and cooking fires hidden from enemy aircraft and patrols. In a world where every drop of grease counted, this discovery proved that even waste materials could serve life-saving purposes. In the early years of the war, troops stationed in wet climates, especially in the Pacific and European theatres, struggled to keep their shelters dry. Standard canvas tents leaked under heavy rain, and smoke from small fires often gave away their positions. Engineers noticed that when fat from cooked meat was rubbed into canvas, it darkened the material and slowed water absorption. Over time, this evolved into a deliberate method of sealing fabric and wood using a blend of grease, ash and wax. So, the formula was actually quite simple, and, well, made use of whatever was available at the time. Soldiers would collect animal fat, mostly pork lard or tallow from the field kitchens, and mix it with some fine wood ash for alkalinity. Sometimes, if they could get their hands on it, they'd add a bit of candle wax too. The typical ratio, you see, was 3 parts melted fat to 1 part ash, with a handful of wax flakes tossed in for a bit of extra stability. When this mixture was stirred over a low heat, the result was a thick greyish paste that would harden up a bit as it cooled. This paste could be brushed or rubbed onto just about any surface, canvas, wood or even metal, and it would create a waterproof, smoke-resistant coating. The so-called grease curtain worked thanks to both chemistry and a bit of practical know-how. Grease and fat are hydrophobic, which, simply put, means they naturally repel water. When you rub that stuff into porous materials like canvas or burlap, it fills up all those tiny gaps between the fibres, leaving no space at all for water to seep through. The addition of ash did 2 critical things. First, it absorbed any moisture left in the grease, thickening the mixture and making it more stable. Second, the alkaline compounds in ash helped neutralize the acidic odor of burned fat and trapped smoke particles. This made the coating ideal for concealing the scent of fires and cooking, which could otherwise alert enemy scouts. When applied to tent flaps or cooking shelters, the greasy layer acted as a sort of filter. Smoke passed through the oily surface slowly, cooling and dispersing before it rose into the open air. In damp climates, soldiers often coated the inside of their shelters as well to prevent dripping condensation from soaking their gear. Beyond waterproofing tents, the grease curtain formula became a multi-purpose field material. Soldiers and farmers alike used it to treat wooden rifle stocks, tool handles, and even the soles of boots. The fat provided a protective oil that prevented cracking, while the ash reduced bacterial and fungal growth. In fact, several post-war manuals from the 1940s and 50s mention grease and ash paste as a makeshift preservative for timber in humid environments. For a modern homesteader or gardener, this same principle can be used safely and effectively. A mixture of 2 cups of melted animal fat or vegetable shortening, half a cup of fine wood ash, and 2 tablespoons of beeswax creates a natural waterproofing compound. When applied warm to wooden garden tools, fence posts, or untreated shed walls, it protects the surface from rain while allowing it to breathe. So the key here is to rub it in while the mixture is still semi-liquid, and then once it cools, you buff it with a cloth. That way you get a clean, sealed finish. What makes this forgotten technique relevant today is, well, how it can be adapted for natural garden care. Grease and ash mixtures can be used to coat terracotta pots, keeping moisture inside during those hot months, or even to seal cracks in compost bin lids and rain barrels. And, a thin layer brushed along the inside of wooden raised beds can also protect the wood from constant wetness, without introducing chemicals into your soil. In areas with heavy rain or mist, gardeners sometimes struggle with damp air, ruining stored seeds or tools. Applying just a small amount of this paste to the edges of storage lids or cabinet joints can make them watertight. For those practicing permaculture or natural building, it's also a suitable waterproof layer beneath earthen plasters or cob structures, a nod to how resourceful wartime engineers used it to reinforce field bunkers. One important note: if you're using this around edible plants or in greenhouses, it's best to use vegetable-based oils instead of animal fat to prevent attracting rodents. Coconut oil, or use cooking oil, works well if you maintain the same 3-to-1 ratio with ash. The ash should always be fine and sifted, preferably from clean, untreated firewood, to avoid introducing contaminants. The grease curtain proved that durability can come from simplicity. When you think about it, this World War II grease curtain wasn't just about survival. It was about efficiency, turning what most people considered waste into a protective asset. Soldiers weren't working with fancy lab formulas or specialized materials. They understood the natural interactions between oil, carbon and alkali and used them to solve real problems. That mindset is exactly what sustainable gardeners and homesteaders strive for today, using what's on hand to build resilience. This method provides a low-cost, biodegradable and durable way to weatherproof and preserve natural materials without synthetic chemicals. It also connects us to a time when ingenuity replaced industrial convenience, and every scrap of material had value. The Second World War grease curtain stands as a perfect example of practical innovation born from necessity. By combining grease, ash, and a touch of wax, ordinary people found a way to make their shelters dry, their fires safe, and their supplies durable, all without access to modern materials. It's a formula worth reviving, not just for its functionality, but for the philosophy it represents. Use what you have and understand how it works. If you found this guide helpful and want more forgotten techniques that combine history with practical backyard use, make sure to subscribe to Backyard Wisdom and share this video with other homesteaders and gardeners. Keeping these skills alive doesn't just honor the past. It ensures we stay self-reliant in the future. Super. Backyard Wisdom.